I've worked at a 911 call center for 12 years, the last 7 of which I've spent on the night shift. After all that time, you think you've heard it all. Drunkards, domestic violence, panic and stammering after car crashes. It all becomes like white noise, a rhythm of human misery that you learn to cope with without letting it get to you. You have to. It's the only way to keep your sanity. My neighborhood is a sprawling, quiet county, practically deserted after 10 p.m. Most of the residents are mothers dropping their kids off at the football fields and retirees. The worst we usually encounter on weeknights is a noise complaint or a drunken teenager around a campfire. For me, my job has become a whirlwind of caffeine, fluorescent lights, and the faint, incessant hum of computer servers. I was completely exhausted with a profound existential weariness, so profound that even sleep couldn't cure it. Calls were mere flashes on the screen, sounds to be processed, categorized, and sent. I was a human switchboard for other people's difficult days. I received my first call on a Tuesday, about 3 months ago. It was 2:47 a.m. in the dead of night. The line lit up on my device, but not in the usual way. It wasn't a mobile call with GPS location tracking, nor a landline call with a recorded address. It was just a raw signal, labeled as an unrecorded VoIP call. Not uncommon, but unusual. I clicked to answer. 911, what's your emergency? A cacophony, a muffled sound like listening to a radio underwater. It was crackling and popping, and underneath it I could barely make out a sound, a whisper. Hello? Can you hear me? It was a child's voice, a boy, I thought, maybe 7 or 8. He sounded like he was trying to talk without moving his lips. This is 911, I repeated a little louder and clearer. I can barely hear you. What's your emergency? The cacophony increased until it almost swallowed his voice completely. He's back. The masked man is back. A cold, sharp shiver ran down my spine, a professional shiver, the kind that tells you this is real, this isn't a joke. Okay, son, where are you? I need an address. My mother is in pain. The whisper came again, broken by sobs. The cacophony now sounded like a swarm of angry insects. My father is lying on the floor, and he's not going to wake up. My son, I need you to tell me where you are. I can't send help if I don't know your location. My fingers raced across the keyboard, trying to find any trace, but the system kept showing errors. No location data, no subscriber information, nothing. He whispered, his voice barely audible. The old house at the end of the road. Please. Then the line cut off abruptly. There was no click, no disconnection. It simply vanished. One moment it was there, a line of static and dread. The next, it was a dead end. Even without a title, the description, the old house at the end of the road, was enough. On the western edge of the county, a long, unpaved road gradually ended in the woods. At the end of it stood a single house, a large, abandoned Victorian building long since deserted. This house was a local legend, the kind where children dared each other to spend the night. I dispatched a patrol car. My senior officer, a man who'd been in the police force since before I was born, returned on the radio about 15 minutes later. His voice was monotonous, filled with a kind of irritation one only hears from new recruits and time wasters. Operations Center, Car 12 is here. The property is secure. There are no signs of forced entry. The place is very secure. No one is here. It looks like it hasn't been here for 50 years. I'm sure, car number 12. Are you sure? The caller was a child. He said his family was under attack. A sigh came through the walkie-talkie. Listen, the dust on the porch is thick. The window panes are gray and weathered. If anyone's inside, it's a ghost. We're ending this call. Tell whoever's messing with things to stop. I marked it as nonsense and tried to forget it. A joke, maybe an elaborate one, using some kind of voice changer and online voice spoofing software. Kids these days. I was too tired to care. A week later, at 2:47 a.m., the same line lit up. The same static, the same creepy whispering voice. He's home. I can hear his footsteps. This time, An iceberg formed in my stomach. "Son, is that the same caller from last week?" A stifled gasp. "He's wearing the mask with the creepy smile. Mom's screaming." Faintly, over the static, I could hear him. A woman's scream, high-pitched, thin, and distorted, like a sound played backward. "I'll send backup," I said, my voice strained. "Stay on the line. Can you hide?" "In the closet," he whispered. "He's coming up the stairs. I can hear his footsteps." The line went dead. I sent 2 cars this time. I told them it was a repeat call, possibly a hostage situation. I didn't want them to take it lightly. They took it seriously. They cordoned off the area. They used the loudspeaker. They broke down the front door. The result was the same. An empty house. Thick layers of dust covered every surface. Worn-out floorboards, peeling wallpaper, the smell of mold and forgotten objects. No footprints. No child. No man wearing a mask. No evidence that a human being had set foot in this house for decades. My manager called me aside the next morning. He's a big, patient man, but he looks like he's seen it all twice. He told me to drop the subject. He avoided my gaze and said, "It's a technical glitch, some sort of interference from elsewhere, or a repeating electronic echo. Don't waste the station's resources on it. If this call keeps coming, record it and move on." But I couldn't. The boy's voice, it was too real. The horror in it was raw. You can't fake that. Not even the best actor in the world could fake the voice of a child who thinks his mother is being murdered in the next room. The calls kept coming. Every Tuesday, clockwise, 2:47 a.m. Each call was a slightly different piece of the same horrifying puzzle. "He's hurting Dad right now. There's a lot of red. Mom stopped screaming. He's looking for me. I can hear him opening the doors." Each time I sent a car, and each time the result was the same. The police got angrier. I was the false shepherd. My boss gave me a formal warning. My colleagues started looking at me strangely, whispering whenever I passed. They thought I was losing my mind. Maybe I was. I started having insomnia. On nights off, I'd find myself staring at the clock, my heart pounding as 2:47 a.m. approached. The silence was worse than the calls. I became obsessed. Instead of sleeping, I'd go to the county record office during the day. I needed to find out who owned that house. The paper records were a mess. The house had been sold and sold multiple times, owned by banks and holding companies. But I kept searching, poring over dusty old records and worn-out deeds. Finally, I found it. The last family who actually lived there. A deed from 1968. A lovely, happy family. A mother, a father, and 2 children, a boy and a girl. That wasn't enough. I started spending my days in the library basement leafing through decades-old local newspapers on a creaking old microfilm reader. The stale smell of paper in the archives filled my lungs. I was looking for anything that connected me to the house, to that family. For weeks, I found nothing, just property tax notices and school honor rolls. Then, I found him. An article from a cold day in late autumn 1975. The headline was glaring. "Local family killed in apparent home break-in." My blood ran cold. I zoomed in, my hands shaking as I adjusted the focus. The image was blurry, black and white. It was the house. The same sharp gables, the same wide porch, police cars parked haphazardly on the overgrown lawn. My heart pounded in my chest as I read the article. A husband, wife, and their 10-year-old daughter found dead in their home. The cause of death was detailed. The article was vague, using phrases like severe injury resulting from the use of force. The police report mentioned a possible intruder, someone a neighbor had seen fleeing into the woods, described only as a tall man wearing a pale, expressionless mask. But it was the last paragraph that held my breath. The statement read, "The family's 8-year-old son is still missing. Police found evidence that he hid in an upstairs closet during the attack, but the boy has not been found. A statewide search is currently underway. Authorities have not ruled out the possibility that he was abducted by the attacker. The crime was never solved. The masked man was never found. The little boy was never seen again." I sat down in my chair, and suddenly the library basement felt like a graveyard. The static, the whispers, the closet, the masked man. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't a glitch. Was I listening to a ghost? The next day at work, I felt broken. I walked into the communications center like a walking dead. The servers sounded like a funeral dirge. I couldn't keep it to myself anymore. I had to tell someone. I grabbed my supervisor and one of the longest-serving communications staff, a woman who'd been there for 30 years, and dragged them into the break room. I explained everything. The calls, the timing, the empty house, the microfilm article. I showed them the printout I had made, the blurry photo of the house, the address. I expected them to think I was crazy. I expected them to tell me to take the day off. They didn't. They exchanged glances. It was a look I'd never seen before, a look of bleak.